What is going on, my dummies, and welcome to a brand new series called Behind the Firewall. This series is basically looking at cards that are upcoming releases for a brand new set in Japan and talking about the impact it could make to the metagame, cards that we already have that could be useful to it, so on and so forth. Now, disclaimer, I have no idea how this is going to impact the metagame. This is my personal thoughts. If you have your own personal thoughts, you can put it down in the comments, but please be very nice about it. Do not be mean, and do not attack people in my comments. Again, my personal opinion on how it's going to work, nothing else. Let's get started. So today's video, we are going over Hexeblaumon. He is 12 to play normally, 3 to evolve, 11k power, which is pretty standard if I do say so myself. He's got 2 abilities. The first ability is one that I've been waiting for a card to have so long. Like, not exactly this ability, but something that is able to revolve around the original mechanic of blue. So what it does is it trashes the bottom 2 Digivolution cards of one of your opponent's Digimon. Then if your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, this Digimon gains jamming, which means it does not get deleted from your opponent's security Digimon, and that only lasts until the end of the turn. Now, something I want to note about this ability. The -2 Digivolution sources on one of your opponent's Digimon, that is what's so powerful about this card. We haven't had anything to really be able to utilize that mechanic, and that's what we really want, is to be able to use the mechanic they originally gave us in the blue starter deck that they have lightly touched on. Like, we got Vikingmon, which was our first big payout of having no Digivolution sources, and you still have Metal Seedramon as well that says if your opponent has a Digimon, or your opponent can't block him if they have no Digivolution sources. But this in particularly is just a really, really good ability. Moving forward, we have during all turns, all opponents' Digimon without Digivolution sources can't attack or block. This is the biggest payoff we have for anything that has no Digivolution sources whatsoever. So moving forward to different ways this works. So one mechanic that's really busted right now, in my opinion, but they don't have enough support, is De-Digivolve. De-Digivolve keeps our opponent from being able to rack up Digivolution sources, but also keeps using De-Digivolve to, in a way, have spot removal to keep our opponent from getting to their level 6s and 7s. This is the opposite. So where we're getting rid of the stuff on the bottom, sure. However, they can still Digivolve on the things that are already there. So Hexeblaumon also has a weakness and a flaw compared to De-Digivolve. And I did want to point that out because I think De-Digivolve is a really great mechanic, and they have to be careful about how they give us De-Digivolve stuff because otherwise they could end up breaking it. But yeah, in terms of the metagame, however, I believe this card is going to be really good. Of course, we haven't seen... This is the only card we've seen from Set 5, if I'm being honest. I look at it and I think about all the different decks that are out currently and what it's able to do. So, for example, there is a green deck, the Nihogmon, right? And with Nihog, you have to Digiburst 4. So you keep them from being able to Digiburst 4, essentially. Like, how are they going to do it if you get rid of 2 Digivolution sources when you attack with Hexeblau? On top of which, if you're able to go into Hexeblau after the Nihogmon has hit the battlefield, then, or just even hard playing the Hexeblaumon, they can't attack anymore. So, like, it's over for them. Like, that deck does Digiburst a lot. So, on top of which, the Omnimon decks, like, of course, they can go into Omnimon, but we can get rid of their level 6s. Like, they can destroy Hexeblaumon, sure, but we can play one right afterwards and keep them from being able to attack us. We're looking at the blue Galgamon deck. Like, we're able to get rid of all the Digivolutions up under it. It does not stop the Galgamon, but it still gets rid of, like, keeps him from attacking because they're Digibursting so much. So, like, I feel like this in particularly stops any of the Digiburst decks hardcore. Like, it slows it down tremendously. It also helps against the Shine Greymon variation decks that get abilities through inheritable skills. Like, that's one of the ways that Shine Greymon is able to keep their tempo is by having those inheritable abilities, and Hexeblaumon just gets rid of them. But I'm going to stop rambling. I believe this is going to be a highly tiered card because of the abilities that it has and the mechanic itself, how it works. But moving forward, I'm going to talk over cards that we already have that could be good in the deck. So starting things off, we have Ikakumon, and Ikakumon actually has multiple different cards. We also have Gabumon and Garurumon from Starter Deck 1 that we can use as well. It basically just gets rid of Digivolution sources. The reason I want to talk about Ikakumon instead is Ikakumon actually discards from the top of the Digivolution sources instead of the bottom. So we're able to get rid of the, like, for example, let's say they go into Ultimate and they have a Metal Tyrannomon that has Security Attack +1 because of the Greymon. We're capable of using the Ikakumon to get rid of the Greymon instead of getting rid of their Digitama. And that's why I want to talk about the Ikakumon, because it's an early game, get rid of the threats. Because, in my opinion, the Digitama and the rookies don't have abilities that matter as much compared to the champions and the ultimates. So yeah, Ikakumon definitely a really good card to this. Moving forward, we have Zootomon. Zootomon, on place, we can draw 2 cards. Awesome ability, and it's not bad first turn. If we already have the Hexeblaumon, we can go Zootomon, and they just start going into like their Digivolutions and get all the way to their ultimate and pass turn, and then we go Hexeblaumon. That's going to feel really bad to them because, like, we have a Hexeblaumon on the battlefield. If it's still our turn, when we attack, we gain a memory, first off, because of the inheritable skill of the Zootomon. Plus, we're capable of keeping our opponent from attacking us if they hard play stuff. Just really good synergy with Hexeblaumon, in my opinion. Moving forward, we have Garurumon. He is played as like a 1 or 2 of in some decks, but not really fully utilized because the Digivolution source doesn't have really good mechanics. However, with Hexeblaumon, we now have something that not only can initiate this ability as inheritable skill, it can also gain it because we're initiating it. But what it does is, when your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, we gain Security Attack +1. On top of the jamming that we would have by getting rid of Digivolution sources with Hexeblaumon. That is really, really good. Moving forward, we have Gomamon. Gomamon's a rookie. This is a promo. This came out in the special release booster that they gave us. It has one of an Agumon, a Biomon, a Gomamon, a Gabumon, a Patamon, and a Gatomon. So the Gomamon from that promo pack, this is the one we're actually talking about. The inheritable skill says, during our turn, once per turn, when a Digivolution source is discarded from one of your opponent's Digimon, we gain a memory. So, like, on top of the Zootomon gaining a memory because they have none, the Gomamon does it whenever we remove it. So, we're, like, let's say the Gomamon and the Zootomon are as inheritable skills, we're gaining 2 memory just for attacking, which is really, really good. I'm going to move forward, though. We have Desperado Blaster. Now, this one is more of like a, I need to say something about it because of what it does. But I don't recommend playing it because you're able to just get rid of Digivolution sources as you need. However, one thing that makes this different is this basically translates to 2 separate abilities. So as it's a 3 cost to play, as the security effect activates the main effect, which says discard 2 Digivolution sources from the bottom of all of our opponent's Digimon. If you have a green Digimon, which you normally will not, rest one of your opponent's Digimon without Digivolution sources. Now, that doesn't matter. The green part doesn't matter. It's the blue part that we're looking at, the top part. So basically, if they hit this on security and they have 2 or 3 Digimon with Digivolution sources and we have Hexeblaumon out because they started going wide with Digivolutions, we actually are capable of making them not be able to attack anymore since it's on our turn as well. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew Desperado Blaster existed with this deck and how it worked. But yeah, this is basically, in Magic terms, a fog, which basically stops all damage. This is something that gets turned over, and it's like a Puppetmon. Basically just stops the attack for a turn, which is really, really good, but it's not just a turn. It's until they evolve those Digimon up, or etc. So, moving forward, we have all 4 Speedramon's option card, the Ray of Victory. It's 5 costs to play normally. The security effect activates the main effect. Now, there's a reason I say this this card in particularly, and it's because of the 2 Tamers to the right next to it, because of how they work. However, this card in particularly works so well with the deck. If you have just 1 Tamer, it does so much for you. So let's draw a scenario here. Let's say we have the Gomamon with security attack, right? And we also have an Oopamon, so we're able to draw a card whenever we swing. And the Hexeblaumon is above the Gomamon. When we and let's say we have a Matt Ishida. When we have this Ray of Victory, we get to bounce something that's a ultimate, a level 5 or less to our opponent's hand. The Digivolution sources are discarded. Now, what makes this important, it says if you have a blue Tamer, one of your Digimon becomes active. So basically what we're capable of doing is we're able to attack with Hexeblaumon. Of course, we're gaining memory. Let's say the Gomamon's there. We gain a memory for it. Let's say we have a Mat or 2. We gain memory for that. So, like, if we're able to keep it on our turn after playing Ray of Victory, when we play it, we get another attack with Hexeblaumon. And don't forget, jamming and security attack +1. So, like, that is unbelievably good. Like, I feel like this is one of those cards that you play to actually finish and close out the game. But that's just my personal opinion on it. Moving forward, we're going to go over Tamers that actually work with this, which is kind of weird. I normally don't consider the Tamers to be something you would want to use in decks most times. But if you're using the Tamers, you could always use the hybrid Digimon. I'll go over those afterwards. But the reason I like these is because, like, I was going more toward, like, talking about how memory control would work, because Hexeblaumon feels more like a memory card, like, or not a memory card, a control card. And gaining memory is one of the ways that you can control the game out. So the first Tamer is Joe Keto. He's 3 to play normally. During our turn, if a Digivolution source is discarded from an opponent's Digimon, we can rest him to gain a memory, which is really good because when we swing with a lot of our Digimon, we're going to be getting rid of Digivolution sources. So with this, we'll be able to gain a memory. But that's not the one I like the most. The one I like the most is the Mat Ishida from the starter deck. He's 2 to play normally, so he's really efficient in memory. At the start of our turn, if our opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, we get +1 memory. Now, this makes it very awkward for our opponent because he does not check cards that are in the Digitama zone. So if we go turn 1 Mat Ishida, we're gaining an extra memory on our turn, which is really good in my opinion. Also, it makes our opponent have to keep digivolving onto cards and keep digivolving onto cards. So if we're capable of forcing our opponent to do things they don't want to do to keep us from gaining memory, we're already in that control aspect because they have to do what they have to do to be able to attack and keep us from gaining memory on our turn. But yeah, that's the cards that I believe would go good with the Hexeblaumon. Like I said, I was going to show you guys the hybrid Digimon that could work with this. So we would have Lobomon, which we can digivolve onto a Tamer as if it was a level 3. But the better one would be the Garurumon. You can evolve it onto a blue Tamer, and when attacking one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon, we return a level 3 back to the hand. So, like, it's, I guess, okay for Rookie Rush. I don't recommend playing it, if I'm being honest. Another thing, too, is for backups, because I never put a backup. Regal Eskismon, I don't know how to say this thing's name. I believe this is Neptunemon, but I could be wrong, which I more than likely am. When attacking, we trash the bottom card of one of our opponent's Digimon. When we do, we trigger to draw a card and gain a memory. Now, the reason I didn't say this is a good backup is because you have to be able to discard a source If you can't discard a source, you don't draw a card and gain the memory. And then another card, like I said earlier in the video, we have Vikemon that we can use in this deck, which is an enabler. Vikemon actually says if our opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, we gain 1000 DP and security attack +1. So he's a 13k base on our turn swinging, which is really good because there's a lot of 13 base things running around. So like, if we're able to give him an extra 1000 power, he doesn't die to the 13k bases. But that's the deck, guys. Or not the deck. I guess that's my thought process of Hexeblaumon. But if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you guys would like to run with Hexeblaumon. This is supposed to be a community where we all talk about different scenarios and how this card will work. Also, subscribe. Every subscription helps the channel, and with more subscriptions means more Digimon content coming out consecutively. But until next time, peace.